All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we are going to talk about all the quarterbacks that were taken in the first round of the NFL draft. We'll talk about each of their situations and kind of my expectations for them, at least in year one. So we'll go in order. Talked about Caleb Williams a lot, and he was taken with the first overall pick. There was no surprise there to the Bears. They had that opportunity to hit the reset button, trade Fields, and, start that clock with the rookie contract. And that's what they opted to do. They traded Fields, and they ended up taking Caleb Williams with the first overall pick. And Caleb Williams is stepping into a good situation with the Bears. The Bears, I've talked about it a lot, how much I like what they've done this offseason. I've said it so many times that I'm repeating myself. But they should be a very competitive team this season. Now, in their division and the conference as a whole, I don't look at them as one of the top teams in the NFC. They have the potential to have a very explosive offense that can compete with anybody. If Caleb Williams is that guy, this offense is going to be a lot of fun to watch. And I think it will be. And I think this team could definitely make a push for the playoffs. And I think they expect that. They expect that. And they have the roster to do it. Because the defense played better towards the end of the year. And just look at the playmakers that they have on offense. The trio of wide receivers. Adding to that receiving core with DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and then you draft Rome Odunze. This offense should be explosive. They should be able to put up points. The defense, like I said, they improved towards the end of the year. They should be better. There's no reason why this team shouldn't contend for a playoff spot. But like I said, with the division, I like the Lions and the Packers better. The Vikings, again, there's question marks at quarterback. They drafted J.J.McCarthy, who we'll talk about. So we'll see how that all plays out. But right now, I look at the Lions and the Packers as the top two teams in that division. But the Bears, they have given Caleb Williams the weapons to be successful. And I think he's in a good situation. And he's going to be starting day one, of course. There's no questions on that. He's starting day one. So, and the Bears in the past, they weren't the best situation to get drafted into. But I feel like what the Bears have done, they're giving Caleb Williams a lot to be successful in year one and give the Bears a chance to get to the playoffs. And we'll see if they can do that. Maybe they can be that wild card team. I think they have a chance to do that. So now with Jaden Daniels, drafted by Washington, I haven't really talked about Washington a lot. And, they made they made moves this offseason. They added some veteran guys like Austin Eckler and Bobby Wagner, Zach Ertz. Now, these would have been great moves if it was, a few years ago. But they added some veteran guys. They also, signed Marcus Mariota as well. They added Dante Fowler Jr. to the defense. They signed Tyler Biadasz, the center from Dallas, to add to the offensive line, so that was good. They added a tackle. Signed Jeremy Chin in the secondary. We'll take a look. They also signed Cleveland Farrell as well, the defensive end, who's kind of bounced around recently. They also added Brandon McManus, so that's where he went. But you look at the depth chart of the Commanders, and you still got Terry McLaurin, of course. You got Jahan Dotson, Brian Robinson Jr. to go along with Eckler. They also drafted Luke McCaffrey, Christian McCaffrey's brother. And right now, so on their depth chart, they got Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, Luke McCaffrey. They actually have Luke McCaffrey listed as the third wide receiver on the depth chart. They did add Nick Allegretti from Kansas City. So, they've made moves. And along with the draft, they did draft Jerzon Newton, who could have been a first-round pick. They drafted him out of Illinois. So the Commanders did make a lot of moves. They did have cap space, and they used that. Like I said, they added some veteran guys. They added guys on the offensive line, on the defense as well. So they did make moves. Now, are these going to be impactful moves? I think on the offensive line, yes, but the defense was pretty bad last year, particularly in the secondary. So, but I feel like all I've been talking about is the defense, and instead of the quarterback. But yeah, so Jayden Daniels, probably starting day one, coming off of a Heisman, and these were his stats from his final season with LSU. So almost 4,000 yards passing, 3,812 yards passing, 40 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Very impressive. And then last 2 seasons, he had 11 rushing touchdowns in 2022 and 10 rushing touchdowns in 2023. So he's got that mobility to him, of course. And, are his weapons, like how they are for Caleb Williams? No, not necessarily. But you got Terry McLaurin, who I think is, looking for some stability at the quarterback position. I mean, there was that quote he had where he just said he was running a lot of cardio. So you're hoping that they can develop a rapport. You got Jahan Dotson, who I think, they're still expecting big things out of him. He had just over 500 yards receiving and 4 touchdowns last year. So, and he's 24. And then you got Luke McCaffrey, who they drafted as well. So, yeah, I think the Commanders, they're, on the come up. I think they're, at least they got their guy. So we'll see how his game translates to the NFL. Like I said, I like the Bears situation better than the Commanders, but he does have some weapons around him. But I wouldn't say he has the supporting cast like Caleb Williams does with the Bears. So that's my thoughts on Jayden Daniels' situation. Again, the combination of Austin Eckler and Brian Robinson Jr., I think that's good. And to have a decent running game, that definitely will help. So, and Brian Robinson Jr. had a good season last year with the Commanders. So that's my thoughts on Jayden Daniels and his situation. Then you go down to Michael Penix. And, oh, nope, I skipped over Drake May. My bad. I talked about them a little bit yesterday, the Patriots, and, Jacoby Brissett talking about there maybe being a competition. Yeah, the Patriots situation, not the best because they don't really, you went from the Bears, love the situation offensively. Commanders, yeah, it's a step below, but, you still got some guys there that can make plays. And then you go down to the Patriots where, yeah, the Commanders have a new head coach in Dan Quinn, but you also have Gerard Mayo, new head coach for the Patriots. The Patriots really don't have a lot of playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. Pretty lackluster. You got Ramondre Stevenson as the lead back. Right now they have Jacoby Brissett listed as a QB1, so we'll see, is Drake May going to be the starter day one, or are they going to ease him into it? I feel like they might ease him into it, but we'll have to wait and see. So you got Ramondre Stevenson, Kendrick Bourne, KJ Osborne, Demario Douglas. They drafted Jalen Polk. Hunter Henry as the top tight end. Yeah, and Kendrick Bourne's coming off of an injury, so they don't really have that number one wide receiver on this team. And again, they might want to ease Drake May into it, and that might be the best thing for him. But yeah, the Patriots situation was not really the best. But they're rebuilding, and they still got a solid defense behind them. So, but yeah, the Patriots not the best situation to get drafted into. But you know what? If they got Jacoby Brissett starting and they want to ease Drake May into it, I don't really see a problem with that. So then we go to Michael Penix Jr. And I think sitting behind Kirk Cousins for a couple years and you know, learning from him. I think that's good because then, when eventually he does take over, then maybe, he turns into that franchise guy that the Falcons are hoping for. And people are high on Penix. And Penix definitely showed you in college that he does have that ability. But he's going to be sitting behind Kirk Cousins. And the Falcons, their offense is, on paper, it's pretty good with the two running backs. And you got Drake London. You're hoping Kyle Pitts, this is his breakout year with Kirk Cousins now throwing him the ball. So I think this was a good situation for Penix to end up in terms of their playmakers. Now, again, you see on social media, it's weird. Like on social media, Falcons fans are not happy, but then some people in the media are saying this. What are they talking about? There's it's like polar opposite viewpoints on the pick of Penix. But again, I think it's good for the Falcons' future, but it's just where the pick was is the problem. So, and then you got J.J.McCarthy, who I don't know if he's going to start right away. I think there might be some time, between him, getting him ready to start. I think Sam Darnold starts, and then maybe you ease J.J. McCarthy into it. I think there's another situation where that's the case, and you don't want to throw him in right away. But if they're able to agree to a long-term deal with Justin Jefferson, you got him, you got Jordan Addison, T.J. Hawkinson. That's a solid group that you're going to be throwing to. Like I said, I like the Vikings roster a lot, so I think that's a good situation for him. And again, if you could sit behind Sam Darnold and, you kind of get eased into it. And you got Kevin O'Connell, who's an offensive-minded head coach. So I think J.J. McCarthy's in a good situation. And I know a lot of people are not high on him. But we'll see how he does. We'll see how he does when he eventually gets his shot. And then finally, we got Bo Nix, who I don't really know too much about. But, well, like I said, I with a lot of these prospects, I don't know that much about each prospect. But with Bo Nix, with the Broncos, I mean, they might be trading Courtland Sutton. That's a possibility. I don't think he's going to be starting right away. I feel right now they got him listed as, again, ESPN has him listed as the number one on the depth chart, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's the case. And that goes for every depth chart that I've kind of looked at. But they could be trading Courtland Sutton. They brought back Tim Patrick. Oh, they signed Josh Reynolds. Okay, I didn't realize that's where Josh Reynolds went. They did sign one of his They drafted one of his receivers, Troy Franklin. So that's good for him. You got Marvin Mims Jr., who was used, more on special teams. Yeah, I don't know if Bo Nix is going to start right away. He might be another one where they want to ease him into it. But yeah, I don't know. The Broncos might not be the best situation, but he is coming off of an impressive season with Oregon. 45 touchdowns to 3 interceptions, 4,500 yards passing. Now again, that's just his stats. I mean, you got to look at the opponents that he did it against. I get it. I understand that. But still, I mean, 45 touchdowns with 3 picks is very good. So, yeah, the Broncos might not be the best situation. But, I mean, you got Sean Payton, and I know his, with everything with Russell Wilson last year, it wasn't pretty, but I mean, the Broncos needed a quarterback. I think if one of these guys went to the Raiders, I think that'd be, a decent situation just because with their playmakers, with Devontae Adams and, they drafted Brock Bowers now, Jacoby Myers. I know Josh Jacobs left, which hurts, but the Raiders, they didn't draft a quarterback. They ended up taking Bowers then. But yeah, the quarterbacks flew off the board in this draft. Some of them were people had them going in later rounds, but that was not the case. They all got taken within the first 15 picks. So, but yeah, Bo Nix, his situation with the Broncos, I just don't think the Broncos are very good. So, but they're hoping he's the long-term answer. So, I think Caleb Williams, he ended up in the best situation. I would probably rank J.J. McCarthy after that, then Michael Penix, then Jaden Daniels, and then I'd probably say I'd probably say either Drake May. Then it's probably like a tie between Drake May and Bo Nix. But again, this is based off of the playmakers. And, Michael Penix is not starting right away. He's going to be sitting behind Kirk Cousins. So, and that might happen with some of these other guys too. But, Caleb Williams is going to start day one. Jaden Daniels is most likely going to do the same. But some of the other guys, they might be sitting for a little bit. So, but let me know what you guys think about the situations for each first-round quarterback. Let me know in the comments. So we're going to take our final break of the show, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about Najee Harris's fifth-year option not being picked up by the Steelers and what that entails. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.